Let us ask you an inquiry. What number photographs of the Earth have you seen? By photographs of the Earth, we aren't discussing photographs taken from the upper climate or the global space station. We mean photographs taken from space or some other planet. For the vast majority, the appropriate response would be a couple. One of those photographs will likely be the celebrated blue marble, which was shot by Apollo 17 space explorers in 1972. Be that as it may, the mainstream blue marble is only one of only a handful few amazing photographs of the Earth out there. We have 10 more here, most of which you've never observed. What's the farthest photograph ever taken Earth? That is the pale blue dot, which was shot by NASA's Voyager 1 space test on the 14th of February 1990. The photograph shows the Earth as a small spot in the upper portion of a beam of daylight that runs from the top to the lower part of the photo. Voyager 1 was 3.7 billion miles from Earth at the time it shot that photograph. That is past the circle of each planet in our nearby planetary group, including Pluto. To place that into point of view, the photograph showed up Earth on the 1st of May 1990. More than 2 months after it was shot, the pale blue dot is one of 60 photos Voyager 1 shot around a similar time. The test additionally took photographs of Venus, Jupiter, Uranus and Neptune. It didn't snap a picture of Mercury on the grounds that the light transmitted by the planet was overpowered by the more brilliant light from the Sun. Mars was impeded by daylight and Pluto was excessively little, dim and far off to be captured. Talking about Voyager 1, the space test is presently in a zone called interstellar space. That is where our Sun's gravitational force is nearly non-existent. In one sentence, Voyager 1 is no longer in our close planetary system. We shouldn't expect any more photographs from it either, since it killed its cameras just in the wake of taking those photographs. The main photograph of the Earth was shot on the 24th of October 1946, and you wouldn't really accept that what we used to shoot that photograph. It wasn't a space test, satellite, or space travelers in a rocket. It was a rocket, a Nazi missile. That rocket was the notorious V-2, Vengeance Weapon 2. The Nazis built up the rocket during World War II and terminated loads of it at their essential opponent, the British. Notwithstanding, they actually had numerous unused rockets lying around at the time they were defeated. The U.S. military moved those rockets to the White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico, where a few scientists appended a camera to one of them to catch the principal photograph of room. The photograph was shot clearly and shows a piece of the Earth with certain dashes of white mist against the dim space. Taking a full close-up photograph of the Earth from space is trying for 2 reasons. The first is that the picture taker should be far enough to catch the planet in full, however close enough to catch every one of its subtleties. The photographic artist additionally needs to choose the ideal time when the sun won't project shadows on the Earth. If we inquired as to whether they knew the primary full image of the Earth, they would have referenced the blue marble, which was shot by Apollo 17 space explorers heading out to the Moon in 1972. Any individual who considers the blue marble the primary full photograph of the Earth isn't right. It is really the second. The first was shot by NASA's ATS-3 Exploratory Climate and Correspondences satellite in November 1967. It's hazy why the 1967 blue marble, as it is presently called, isn't as mainstream as the one that came after it. It's presumably on the grounds that its tones are somewhat more blunt. On the 22nd of December 1966, the NASA Applications Technology Satellite 1, ATS-1, did what no human satellite or space test had ever done. It snapped a picture of the Earth and Moon together. In that photograph, We can see part of the Earth in the frontal area with the full moon in the background. Many public, including space aficionados, have never observed this photograph, and some even credit the Voyager 1 orbiter with taking the principal photograph of the Earth and Moon together. Explorer 1 took the main full photograph of the Earth and Moon and not the principal photograph of the Earth and Moon. We as a whole understand what comets resemble when seen from Earth. Presently, how about we turn that situation around a piece? What does the Earth resemble when seen from a comet? We don't generally have a response to that, however, we have a thought. The Earth may seem as though a crescent. The wonderful photograph you see up there was shot by the European Space Agency's ESA Rosetta space test in 2009. Is anything but an altered photograph of the Moon or some Earth-like planet. It's the Earth. The whole planet is totally passed out, put something aside for the South Pole, which holds Earth's particular blue color. Rosetta was preparing to endeavor an arrival on Comet 67P Churyumov-Gerasimenko at the time it snapped the picture. Notwithstanding, it initially expected to make 3 flybys past Earth to create enough speed to block the comet. It snapped the picture during its 3rd flyby. It's only 1 out of every odd time we will see a photograph of Earth from Mars. Because of the tenacity of the Mars Curiosity Wanderer, which is as yet kicking 6 years past its arranged 2-year life expectancy, we understand what the Earth resembles from the outside of Mars. In mid-2020, Curiosity pointed its camera at the Martian sky and shot 2 photographs, one of Earth and the other of Venus. Its administrators here on Earth combined both photographs to make a solitary photograph of planets Earth and Venus. That photograph isn't definite since the 2 planets show up as plainly brilliant spots against the night sky. Discussing splendor. Would you be able to think about why Earth and Venus were brilliant despite the fact that the stars are nearly invincible? It's on the grounds that Mars' climate was dusty at the time the photograph was shot. The residue particles noticeable all around mirrored the light from the sun, making the sky become plainly splendid. The outcome is that just the closest and most brilliant things show up splendid. On the 19th of July 2013, NASA's Messenger space test shot a photograph of the Earth and Moon from Mercury. As should be obvious in the photograph, the Earth and Moon are so brilliant it's practically difficult to reveal to them separated. This has a great deal to do with the mission of the space probe. NASA sent Messenger to Mercury to discover little satellites that might be circling the planet. Considering the little size of the articles it was looking for, the test needs to point its cameras at the objective territory for quite a while prior to accepting a photo. Photographers call this overexposure, and the thought is to permit the cameras catch however much light as could reasonably be expected from an item. That is the main way the cameras can identify little subtle items that would have stayed inconspicuous. The Earth and the Moon would have been no bigger than a pixel if the test had shot the photograph just subsequent to pointing its camera. On the 19th of July 2019, NASA's Cassini space test shot a stunning photograph of Earth from Saturn. The photograph shows part of Saturn and its rings very close, with the Earth showing up as a little spot somewhere far off. The Moon is alongside the Earth, however, is scarcely obvious. NASA named the photograph, "The Day the Earth Smiled." The day the Earth smiled is viewed as extraordinary compared to other photographs of Earth. It turned out wonderful in light of the fact that Saturn hindered the Sun, which would have projected shadows on Cassini's field of view and annihilated what would have been an ideal shot. Notwithstanding its ubiquity, this photograph is only one of the numerous photographs Cassini shot from Saturn. In 2006, Cassini caught a photograph of the Earth with parts of Saturn's rings in the frontal area. That photograph is known as the blue orb. It's cool as well, however not as cool as this one. Cassini likewise snapped another picture of the Earth and Moon on July 19, 2013. The Moon is noticeable this time, however Saturn's rings are most certainly not. On Christmas Eve 1968, the three-man team of Apollo 8 turned into the principal people to make a trip to the Moon. They didn't arrive on the Moon yet, just circled round it prior to getting back to Earth. Be that as it may, their flight would have an enduring impact, especially on the establishing of ecological activism. Environmentalism wasn't generally a thing until Apollo 8 crew member, astronaut William Anders shot a huge photo of the Earth ascending from the Moon. The upper portion of the Earth was brilliant blue while the lower half was totally dark, as though it were non-existent. The dry, sun-baked surface of the Moon is obvious in the foreground. That photograph was named Earthrise despite the fact that it isn't the main photograph of the Earth ascending from the Moon. 3. That honor has a place with a comparative photograph shot 2 years sooner. The picture taker was anything but a human, however. The Lunar Orbiter 1, a space test NASA conveyed to examine the Moon. The 1966 Earthrise photograph appears as though Anders' Earthrise, aside from that it was grainy and shot clearly. Little miracle it didn't have a similar impact as Anders' more clear and shaded photograph. On 13 November 2008, NASA delivered a high-goal photograph it made from the 1966 Earthrise. The refreshed photograph looks better despite the fact that it actually needs tone. The 1967 and 1972 blue marbles we referenced in the past passage are only two of the many blue marbles out there. The most recent blue marble was shot in 2015 and it's known as the 2015 blue marble. The 2015 blue marble should have been shot before, however was deferred in light of the fact that Republicans and Democrats couldn't locate a center ground. Trouble started in 1998 when Vice President Al Gore uncovered NASA was wanting to dispatch a satellite to take a full photograph of the Earth. Conservatives restricted the program and nicknamed the satellite GoreSat, a joke on Al Gore's name. The two players stayed in contradiction until George W. Bramble became president in 2000. Bush's organization requested that NASA eliminate the cameras on the satellite, however NASA clarified that the satellite and cameras would perform different assignments separated from taking photographs. NASA additionally explained that the decreased weight would influence the security of the satellite in space. Nonetheless, the Bush organization demanded and advised NASA to supplant the cameras with sandbags. NASA retired the venture rather since obviously the Bush organization was reluctant to finance it. Improvement possibly continued when Barack Obama became president in 2008. The satellite was dispatched a couple of years after the fact and it snapped the picture in 2015. I hope you enjoy this video, so thank you for watching. If you like this video, give a like and subscribe my channel for more updates of amazing facts.